Bonsoir tout le monde, ici The Gentleman 14 et bienvenue à cette présentation de tournoi, un petit vidéo aujourd'hui pour vous présenter un tournoi bien particulier, un tournoi en équipe. Et j'ai avec moi aujourd'hui l'organisateur de ce tournoi. Veuillez savoir que cette entrevue sera faite en anglais puisque nous avons aujourd'hui avec nous Lionel Miranda. Hey Lionel, how are you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. I've never been insulted in such a way in another language.
It's really amazing to have you here, Lionel. We're here to talk about the TGX tournament, an Age of Sigmar team player tournament that's coming up on November 5th and 6th. So it's coming up real soon.
It is. And actually, you know what? So is yours. So this will be a nice little cross promotion.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we're going to talk about what team events are like. Basically,
yeah,
because it is a different animal entirely. Like it's just a completely different type of experience and approach on how to play.
Absolutely, it's a different approach, and it is a different feeling for everybody involved, for all the players in the event. So we're gonna present to you guys the event. We're gonna talk about the players pack. You know, we're gonna go over list building, team pairings, and all of that. And then we're gonna do a fun little game at the end. We're gonna present our dream teams, our fantasy teams for this tournament. Which team we would like to have with us at this tournament. So that's good. That's gonna be fun. So, but let's start with the basics, Lionel. So tournament 5th and 6th of November, and it's coming up in. Remind me the location exactly.
November 5th and 6th. It's in Mississauga. That's just outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
We're at the Sandman Hotel. It's on. If you go to torontogamingexpo.com, you'll see it there. Boom, right on the front page. The player pack is up, and we're going to talk a little bit of details about that.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Yeah, that's us. That's basically it. We've been doing Toronto Gaming Expo. This is probably the fourth year. Fourth year was obviously supposed to happen a while ago, but of course COVID happened.
Yeah.
So this event was booked quite a few months ago. We weren't sure where COVID was going to be at. So we just did a very, very abbreviated version of our event. So we're only holding a singular tournament. And because we're only doing one tournament, we wanted to do a little special. So we wanted to do a team event. So here's where we are. So this is a 5-person team event.
Yeah.
Which is really where it gets very, very interesting on your pairings. And I guess we'll be talking about that.
It's not your first rodeo organizing a tournament, though, is it?
No, not at all. I'm a game store owner. I own X Planet Games in Mississauga. I've been before. I guess I've owned the shop now going on 14 years, give or take.
Nice.
And then before that, I was actually at Games Workshop. I worked at Games Workshop, all sorts of sales channels. I was with the company for about 13 years.
Okay.
So gaming, and then before that, I was a giant nerd, and I made it sound like it was a past tense thing, but it's actually very current. So I've been doing the gaming thing for quite a while. Is basically what it boils down to.
And you wanted to bring team tournaments. You know, I think it's something which is fair to say that we don't have that much yet in Canada.
No.
That was also why, on my end, we wanted to bring the Gentleman's Team Tournament in Quebec for the Quebec community to start up, having more team tournaments, which is something that's that's much more popular, I would say, in the UK and in Europe even, and probably more also in the United States down south. But here in Canada, it hasn't really started up yet.
Exactly, and one of the reasons why I was reaching out to you, Xavier, was to see if I could get some your wonderful Quebec players out to my event, because every time I've interacted with the Quebec meta at CCBB or C2B2, depending on how you want to. That was a Michael Simeon thing. It's okay. You don't know who Michael Simeon is. But, oh, yeah, you do. Yeah,
absolutely,
you do.
I do.
Oh, exactly. He thought of that. I thought that was clever. Anyway. in Ottawa. Obviously, it's close enough to the border where we get some of the French guys coming out. And I just love playing the French guys. My very first experience with the meta was maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago or so. And I just had a blast. I loved how you guys play, and it would be amazing if we could get some of you guys to come out to the event. So there you go. This is what this is. This is me fishing right now.
Well, hopefully we can inspire a bunch of ragtag Quebecers to go and take the trophies out of your hands. So that would be great.
Yeah, please do. We'll be handing out some really nice trophies too. Obviously, it'll be depending on how many people come up, but I mean, we always put a lot of money into the actual trophies themselves. So that's cool. That's cool.
Awesome.
All right. So speaking of tempting, so what do you want to talk about first then?
Shall we dive into the players pack right now, or?
The players pack. But let's talk about building a team in the concept of not losing by a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So not losing by a lot. What the heck does that mean? It means basically when you construct a team, Xavier, you are not going to have a team that represents the best armies, period. No. Maybe like everyone would love, I'd love to have all S tier armies and have all of them to be absolutely fantastic. And it's just not possible, right? Yeah. There aren't 5 best teams. And because of the way the mechanics work in team play, you have to deploy a person as a defender. So are you familiar with that concept?
Yes, but we should go.
So if you and I are head-to-head, we represent our 2 different teams. We're going to put one of our team members face down, either our list or a pog or an image of our army, something to differentiate so that the other team knows who we picked.
Yeah.
We put that face down. Once the choices are made on both sides, we reveal it. And those are the defenders.
Yeah.
It then we go back into a huddle, and then each one of us is going to present 2 lists for the other team to pair up with their defender.
Yeah, those would be the attackers, right?
Those would be the attackers. And the defender is usually the first person to take it in the face.
Yeah.
Right? Because the ideal is to make sure that the defender doesn't have great choices. So he's not set up to lose, but he's not necessarily in the best spot to win either. Yeah. And there's a lot. We're going to get into more of the details, but that's part of it. So the idea is you want those defenders to obviously win, but if they lose, to lose by as little as possible.
Yeah.
And that's where you now start getting into the other part of team army building, and that is skewing lists, doing lists that are that you would normally run in solo play because you don't know who you're going to be paired up with.
Exactly.
But in team play, you get the opportunity to pair it up to more ideal matchups or ideal battle plan, because that's another thing to take into consideration when pairing up. So it's you really want a very, very skilled, very, very knowledgeable player to run as a defender.
Yes, because the more he knows about the army he's going to face, the better position he's going to be in.
Correct. And that's, in fact, the defender is the person that has probably what they refer to as a faction specialist, someone who's just like knows his one army inside out.
Yeah.
But also has to know the entire meta because he's the one that's going to be presented, or she is going to be the one presented with all those options.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually you're going to put your most experienced player in this position. Usually. That's what would make the most sense, usually. Yeah.
Correct. Everyone, obviously every position, there's no weak link. And of course the attackers also will share another burden of responsibility, when we'll talk about that in a sec. Yes. But the defender role is one of the hardest ones to conceptualize. Like when we were building the Canadian team last year, we had a couple of guys, and I was talking about this concept, and they were like, "What do you mean lose by not a lot? That's my role." And it's like, yeah. And he's like, "Why wouldn't you just win?"
Obviously, if you can win, great.
Exactly.
But that's not the point here.
Well, right. Because the other side of it is, I need you to lose by as little as possible. Mm-hmm. So why is that important? If we keep our scores close, mm-hmm. the one-time points differential is an amazing thing, is in team play. Like, I'm not a fan of points differential in solo. Maybe as a breaker, but in team play, it really comes into its own, because now the defender, he can scrape for every point and try to keep it close. Mm-hmm. And there's a range of points you can score, but I mean, if you can lose in like 9 to 10, 9-11, I think is what the break is. That's a huge deal for the team. You just went into a really good matchup where the guy was supposed to win mm-hmm. and win hard, and he didn't. He only scored 10 or 11 points off of you. That helps the overall team. Now, why is that important? It's because out of those 5 matchups, we add up all the scores to figure out who won that round. And assuming everything goes to plan, the defenders will give up very little, and the attackers will score very high.
Yeah.
And that's the idea.
Yeah. So the beauty in this is that, like you said, everybody has his role, and it's really a team event, because everybody's got to do their job to make it work, basically.
Exactly. And it also opens up armies. Mm-hmm. Like, armies all of a sudden become way more interesting. It's like, you know what, Gloomspike gets is not great army. Yeah. But maybe as a defender it is.
Yeah, maybe if I put over 200 goblins on the table, your 8 dragons, Stormcast dragons, are not gonna through 200 wounds in this turn. So maybe you're not gonna score.
Maybe you won't, right? And maybe you keep on constantly score. Sure, you'll lose that game, but maybe you'll keep it close, right? So that's what's cool about team play, because it brings other armies into effect. Because here's the other thing: you cannot repeat books across the army. Mm-hmm. So after you pick your Seraphon list and your Magikin list and your whatever else is in the top meta, you now are looking at all the other armies, and you're like, well, why would I ever pick Gloomspike Kids? Why? Because in team play, maybe they won't expect it. Mm-hmm. And maybe you'll brew something mm-hmm. that is so unexpected that they'll make a judgment call and not actually understand what they're looking at. You take them by surprise. Yeah. And then you score those 9 points as a defender, and that's amazing. And of course, maybe you pull out a win.
Yeah, and this is where the mini game of the pairings comes in, because if you win your mini game, maybe you've managed to put your Doomspike Giz versus a Lumineth army, which has very elite damage, and then he's in trouble. But if you lose the pairing match, maybe you've put it against Iron Jaws, and he's just laughing at you because he's just gonna table you in 2 turns anyway. So it's this whole other game, like, that you have to play before the games.
It's the mini game. The pairings of the matchups is just amazing. Yeah. So the first role is defender. We talked about that. And then we already talked about the attacker.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the attacker's on the other end of the team, and their role is to score. Yeah. They are very often alpha strike lists. Mm-hmm. Very often 1-drop lists. When the shooting meta was really, really high, often shooting lists. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, the Iron Jaws could play in an alpha strike type style list as well. Stormcast really lend themselves to an alpha list. Mm-hmm. Old Lumineth, when the shooting was high again. Daughters of Cain. But their responsibility now, because they were playing these, exceptional armies, is to score. That is the expectation. So they're not aiming for 9s, obviously, because that's a loss. Yes, it's lost by a little bit, but it's still a loss. They're looking at 12 and up. Yeah. They're trying to score 12 or more points in the team, mm-hmm. right? When the team's battling, that's what they're aiming for. Mm-hmm. So to give you an idea, a 12 points would be something along the lines of, I guess, a 1 to 2 point differential. Yeah, sorry, pardon me. You're really aiming for something more like a 14 or 15 points, I should say. Yeah, at 14, 15 points, you need to beat your opponent by 5 to 6 or 5 to 8 points.
It needs to be a really decisive game at that point.
Yes, exactly right, and it's going to be big. I mean, I'm assuming you've already played a whole bunch of games of this new season, I guess, if you want to call it. All the games are tight. Mm-hmm. A lot of games are decided by only 1 to 2 points.
Couple points, yeah.
Yeah. So if you can get the differential at a 5 to 6 or 7 to 8 point differential, that's a huge, that's a big win. And that's what those guys, that's their responsibility.
Yes.
So it's not like they have an easy job and the defender they both have equally hard jobs because they have goals that they need to meet.
Yes.
And of course, if the defender wins, it takes the pressure off the attack.
Yeah, exactly. There's no easier job in the team. Everybody has to do their job. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then there is a third role.
Yeah.
And this is just the players that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about the coaching. There is the attacker defender. And this is your middle. Now, you might not have that in a 4-person team. That's the event your guys are running, right?
Yeah,
You're doing 4 people.
Exactly.
But in a 5-person team, and as you start ticking up further and further, those attacker-defender roles, basically these are pitch hitters. They are shortstops. They are the players that the captain calls forth in a sticky situation, usually to respond to something unexpected.
Yes.
And we'll talk about my team, but I can tell you straight up right off the bat, one of my most favorite attacker defenders are Seraphon.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. These are the types of lists that you're usually going to see in a solo environment. These are the all-around lists that are able to be as much as a defender as an attacker, like we say in the name. They can basically do well in every situation. Yeah,
exactly right. If you put them up as a defender, just hang about in the wind, mm-hmm. they'll be in a good situation, and they of course can also score a lot of points themselves. And those are usually like, I don't know if you want to use what the kids call S-tier armies, but those are S-tier armies, mm-hmm. basically mm-hmm. armies that play at a whole other level. And they just, like, a lot of the Alpha Strike armies are probably going to be skewed even more so for team play.
Yeah.
So if there's something like a big bad in the meta, like almost every team should have something to answer Seraphon or try, for instance.
Yeah.
They'll have that one person on their team. Magikin can probably play the role of an attacker defender.
Absolutely.
Depending on build, of course.
Yep.
So there you go. So those are the 3 roles that are on the team. And then as your team gets larger, as the event goes, like in the Worlds team where it's actually 8 players, you start, like, the 3D chess starts.
It gets crazy in there.
It gets crazy because just imagine trying to figure out what the first drop is going to be on the other team.
We've seen bits of Worlds teams preparations, with matrices and everything. The goes into preparation, and it is just wild.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Often those matches were often almost like won or lost in the pairings process, because those are
and almost always on the defending side.
Yeah, it's great to watch. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? AoS is my favorite miniature game, mm-hmm. and we're literally doing the event my favorite way to play as well. Like, it's just team event is just the absolute best way to play any miniature game. Pick your favorite. It is the best way to play it. Like, it's just such a great experience. And to hang out with your friends out for the weekend, to commiserate. It's great even for people who don't play the game at that kind of level. It's still fantastic because you're all commiserating together.
Yeah.
Win, lose, draw. It's just a fantastic way to experience the game.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. So we've gone over the roles. Is there something else you would like to talk about before we jump in
to our fantasy picks? Yeah. All right. Well, I want to talk about two things.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, do you want to talk about, you want to go more into the list building or in the list, per teams, how you want to go with that, or?
I think we'll talk about that when we get into our lists.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk in broad terms and styles. Like, for instance, let's just say you have DOK on your list, right? Daughters of Cain on your list.
Yeah.
And then the first thing I'll ask you is it like a snake build, or are you doing hordes of witches, right? And then we'll talk about the pros and cons about that when we start talking about our fantasy list.
Perfect.
The one thing I wanted to talk about, because I really want my event, your event, and the concept of teams in general to be foundational on building our country's team. We currently right now, I think the doors are closed on the application for the Canadian team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you're in the council, right?
Yes. The team has been chosen, though I will not reveal more at this point.
No.
But yes, the selection process is done. Absolutely, for Team Canada.
Yes. So you got the selection process, right? So everyone who's watching right now who hasn't applied, well, a little too late now, right?
Yes.
But doesn't mean, of course, there isn't the next year. And that's what we want. We want to be able to tap into these phenomenal communities across our country that are very isolated because our country is very big.
Yes, it is wide.
Yeah, it's very, very big. And get more people to apply. And get them thinking about this as something that they also want to do.
Yes.
It isn't cheap to travel. I'm not going to lie about that. Not everyone has the means to do so. But for those who do and also have a passion for the game, I can't express how cool it is to represent your country in this little nerd world of ours, somewhere in Europe, drinking with all sorts of wonderful people across the world. I mean, it's got to be awesome, right?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah. All right. So there it is. Okay. So what do you want to do now? You want to do our fantasy picks, or do you want to talk about anything else specifically?
No. You know what? We can jump right in our specific picks. I just wanted to mention right away that the players pack is available for your event. There's going to be a link in the description below for it, and there's going to be a link also for I think the event is on Facebook. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it is. Yep. You can look at Tabletop Gaming Expo on Facebook as well, and that has a link there that goes right to the page.
Perfect.
And there it is.
So it's all available there. If you have more questions about how the event is going to go, you have a very well done players pack with the round pairings explained in more details and all the process. It's a 3-hour gaming process, so you've got that in the round scoring, everything. It's all very well detailed, so go check that out. And I wanted to ask you about what was before we jump into the fantasy teams. I wanted to ask you about what was your thinking towards terrain and table setup.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking maybe doing it after the fantasy pick.
That's all right.
But you know what? It's okay. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the greatest miniature games of the world is Warhammer 40,000. I don't know whether you heard of it, but it seems to be catching. There's a lot of people that play it.
Seems to be, yeah.
It seems to be catching.
Yeah.
Okay, so why am I bringing up Warhammer 40,000 in an AoS thing? I want to talk about the depth of where the team's event in Europe came from, ETC and WTC.
Yeah.
40K is got very huge foundational pillars in team play.
Yeah.
absolutely massive community. Hordes of players play it. It is hard to make any of the 40K teams anywhere around the world. They go through an enormous amount of process and experience. I've reached out to the Canadian captain to get tips for the Canadian team at one point. Lots and lots we can learn from the 40K side. Now about the game. So as well as having defenders, attackers, and then the mix of roles, and then of course taking pairings into consideration, and then of course taking battle plan into consideration, because battle plan is also very, very important in AoS to make sure you match a player with a battle plan that can actually have a chance of winning. Like, you don't want to put Suns into a battle plan that has Silk Steel Nests, which is an 8 objective mission. Suns are going to have a real hard time winning that. It doesn't matter whether the pairing army versus army is good. Suns is going to be like, oh no,
that's hard. Yeah, right off the bat.
I can't do this. I'm not sure how I'm going to go into it, but I can't be the defender, or maybe can be. It depends. Anyway, sorry. Let's get to the depends part. So back to 40K. Another thing they have to take in consideration is tables. So in 40K, they have light, medium, and heavy tables. And of course, in 40K, terrain is extremely important because ranged weapons, the projection of power in 40K is huge, right? So you need a good amount of terrain. And if it's lighter, it favors shooting armies. If it's denser, it favors more hand-to-hand armies. It's such a cool thing to take in consideration, and I wanted to replicate that. Because in 40K, what happens is the defenders, after they get paired up, get choice of table. So yes, they get to put their chin out, and yes, they just eat whatever is served to them, but at least they get to pick the battleground, so to speak. Unfortunately, terrain doesn't really matter that much in AoS.
No, as much as this edition is, AoS is in the best place it's ever been. Basically, right now, we are very poor on. We're very poorly equipped in terrain rules in AoS, which is a shame because it could be so much more. And I think that's why we have, in certain ways, we have to experiment, or at least try to take it in our own hands and make it interesting, like you're doing here.
Right. So one of the things, what are we doing? So we want to make the picking of tables at least we wanted a little bit of that strategizing to be part of AoS. And AoS, the only real terrain rules it has is the mysterious terrain. In Ontario, we don't use it a ton.
We don't use it that much here either. It's just...
It happens, but it does happen. I mean, we use a little bit but generally speaking, everyone around the world does use it in some shape, way, or form. The problem with the mysterious terrain is the vast majority of the mysterious terrain is very forgettable. Like, it doesn't really impact the game. So what I did, or what we did, is we picked 3 impactful mysterious terrain features. And then we actually put them on dedicated tables. So what does that mean? Because we're a team of 5, right? There's going to be 5 tables that are going to be played on. 3 of the tables will have 2 pieces centrally located on each table, roughly 7 inches from the center, that are going to be damned terrain. And then we'll have 1 table that is arcane and 1 table that is mystical. So the teams, on top of the pairing process and everything else, the defenders that you put down will actually get a choice on picking a damned table, an arcane table, and a mystical table. Now, these features are not going to be in your territory. They're going to be centrally located. But of course, depending on how the deployment territory, exactly, they could be relatively close. Now, they are going to be in the action, of course. So your wizard will be in the danger zone. Quote the Top Gun music. So they'll be in the danger zone, but they'll be you can build to that.
Yes.
Like, for instance, if you take a Soul Blight list,
yes,
and you know that this exists, you take a Soul Blight list. A Soul Blight list can easily be a defender role. And you could go, you know what? I'm a defender. I'm going to pick the arcane table. Absolutely. And just put my Karstein right near that so I could get bonuses to cast. And he's basically unkillable. And when you come at me, I'll teleport to the other arcane.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So it's not the same as in 40K, where the terrain has massive impact on the game. This is going to have impact.
Yeah, we're basically starting from nothing. So now just adding this in already has an impact on the game for sure.
Yes. Even the damn terrain. Yeah. The damn terrain, taking D3 mortals to get +1 to hit is no joke.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in a game, you don't have to spend a CP to get all-out attack.
Absolutely. That's a free CP right there.
Yeah. And now if we go back to the original concept where I mentioned Wounds by Gits, you know what absorbs D3 mortal wounds really, really well are all the Horde armies. Like zombies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll suck up D3 mortal wounds. Right? My fat boys, Blight Kings, right?
Yeah, they don't.
Sure. +1 to hit.
I'll take
and
it.
I still have all-out attack.
Yeah.
Somewhere else. That's amazing. Right? Or I could go +1 to hit and have all-out defense. Or +1 to hit and +1 to hit because you're -1. I'll go all-out attack and I'll still get my bonus.
Absolutely. So that it adds another layer of thinking in the pairing process. Exactly. And, you don't necessarily want to make it complex, but you want to make it at least, I'd say, challenging. You want the teams to think carefully what they're doing, what they're picking, and on which table they're playing. And that's just awesome.
Yeah, that's the hope anyway. Yeah. It's the very first time, obviously, we're doing a team event with TGX. I have not heard this ever done anywhere else either. This is not about tooting horns. It's just me trying to capture distill the essence of the great cool thing that 40K does and try to bring some of that over into AoS.
If it doesn't work out, you scrape it and you start over another time. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then hopefully they'll actually have terrain rules that are more.
Maybe we can hope on that. In contrast with the Gentleman's Team tournament, I've been more conservative as I've not introduced any terrain rule, but I also have a rule in which a certain team is going to pick their table first, which adds another layer. It's not as big as a layer as yours, I'd say, but it's still there. You want your teams to think about what they're doing. That's why we do this thing.
Yeah. So you have an understanding. The teams come up to the table. They do a roll-off to see which defender gets to pick first.
Yeah.
Right? So the team that wins the roll-off, their defender gets to pick table first, and it goes back, and so on and so forth. Yeah. All right, so that's it. That's our little twist. Hopefully it all works out, and it's cool.
Yeah, so...
and hopefully everyone enjoys it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they will. It's going to be awesome. So I had the players pack on screen, guys. Go check it out. Now, as we've laid all of the context of this tournament, we're going to go in our fantasy team draft. So
I wonder how close this is going to be. How close our teams are going to be the same. They're just going to be the same.
Well, I actually have gone with an all-Quebecer team. I'm warning you. It's all guys from here.
Is it low broken?
Is that broken?
No, is it low broken?
Oh, no. You'll see.
That's it. That's the extent of my French humor. I apologize.
I cannot confirm nor deny this information. All right, so I've got a little Word document here with a chart. We got Team Lionel, we got Team Xavier, and we're gonna just go right on through it. So
okay, so when you're doing a team event, all lists are usually presented significantly ahead of time.
Yes,
or at least should.
Yes,
that's the goal. Usually a month before the actual event happens. I know in solo gameplay it's about a week, give or take. Some tournaments, do it way ahead. But in team play, it's important that you give all the teams an opportunity to look over the other team's mix and lists.
Yes. Yes.
So
you have to
all
strategize.
teams will have their team.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say. What if we get this team? What are we doing? You got to start, planning. Oh, we're gonna pair this list with this list, and we're gonna try at least.
Exactly.
So that's the
exactly.
work
That's when you start getting into those little matrices.
Yeah.
If you want to go down that route and start doing fantasy pairings, right? Into okay, so what happens when we're playing against this team?
Yeah.
How we're gonna open up? Where do we think they're gonna drop first? Right? Because although we have labels like defender, attacker, and then attacker defender, those aren't labeled on the list. You have to kind of figure that out on the roll.
That's the sneaky part,
right? Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, so do you want to go ahead first?
Here is my fantasy.
Yeah,
my fantasy team. Yeah, I'll go first because this is information you'll know. Okay.
Okay.
So my fantasy team has Iron Jaws, Stormcast.
Let's see.
Stormcast.
Yeah.
Seraphon.
Yeah.
Sons of Behemoth.
Yeah.
And Magakin.
All right. Iron Jaws, Stormcast, Seraphon, and Sons of Behemoth and Nurgle. Cool. So we've got a great mix over there. Definitely some defender attackers pick that we can see. We've got I think your attacker defender in Seraphon, like you've talked about earlier. That's a great pick right there, I think.
Yep.
I'm trying to guess which is which. Like I'm trying to do the little work ahead. I think your Sons of Behemoth are your defenders. I think you're.
So here's when you're like. Yeah. Here's when you're looking at my list now. You'd be like, okay, well, we don't actually, guys. We don't have lists actually presented.
No.
Why? Because it doesn't really make it that much of a difference. We're going to talk about broad strokes, right? So you're gonna look at my Iron Jaws list, and it's gonna probably be Bloodtooths, right? So it's a lot of pigs.
Yeah, it's
the Stormcast list.
Yeah,
going to be Celestial Vindicators.
Yeah.
So you have an understanding. Celestial Vindicators have one unit when it charges. It has exploding hits on 6s. So through your research, you'll see that.
Yeah.
The Sons of Behemoth. We're just going to go with the classic. We don't know. They're obviously going to be changing. Maybe not so obvious. A new book's coming out.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a whole whack load of rules. So this is going to be a little bit dated. But we're just going to go with the classic 3 Siege Breakers and an Incarnate.
Yeah, so Breaker Tribe, easy.
Breaker Tribe.
Breaker Incarnate.
And then...
yeah.
And then the Magikin list we'll go with Blessed Sons. And we'll do something crazy with a whole bunch of maybe Rotmire Creed, Blight Kings. Looks tough, has a lot of output. There you go. Mm-hmm. But we can obviously change that. We just talk about it and see, and there you go. That's those are my picks.
And
so what do you got?
Your Seraphon would be a classic Seraphon list with Thunder Lizard, or do you go more into fans?
Just pick one that's like
it's basically all the same.
Stupid.
Just put Skinks and you're good to go. All right. I'll just put Skinks.
Good, right?
All right. I'll just write Skinks. Everybody gets it.
Yeah, Skinks doing something, Skinks, something. I mean, that book is just blessed with so many options.
Yeah.
And the player playing that will have a fun time punching kittens and puppies.
All right, so I've got my picks around here.
What do you got?
So I've got Nighthawk.
I was gonna pick Nighthawk. I want it to be different though.
I've got KO. I've got Nurgle.
You got Nurgle as well.
I had which was the player? Oh yeah, I've got BOC.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then I had Fire Slayers actually.
Yep.
And, you know, lists would be, well, 9 hounds basically just Bladegeist queued. So that what it would be.
I can't even remember what the heck the faction's called. They're just called Bladegeist.
Scarlet Doom, but yeah, the Bladegeist faction. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
KO is just gonna be one-drop shenanigans. You know, like KOs do, maybe with an incarnate, maybe with just, you know, more guns.
Yeah.
You do what it does. Nurgle, I'd actually look into... I was actually thinking about Plague Bearers and Beasts of Nurgle. So probably Plague Bearers and Beasts. BOC.
I heard.
Yeah.
I heard Beasts are pretty good in Nurgle.
Yeah. You would know, right? You would know. And then in BOC, it's just mass wounds and summoning, which is what they do. So that would be basically the list. And then you've got Fire Slayers, which is actually would actually be foot troops like Berserkers and Volkites, actually.
Volkites.
Yeah.
You go more shooting as opposed to...
No, not the Auric. The Volkites, Berserkers are the little dudes with the...
the Volkites are just a regular whole whack load of dudes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that could be really gross as well, actually.
Yeah.
All right.
So there we
go. So we're relative captains of our team, where we're trying to figure out who's going to be usually our first pick to drop, right?
Yeah.
So I am going to. We're just going to go on the honor system. I'm going to put an asterisk on who I think you'd be deploying first.
Okay.
And let's see if I guess it right.
Yeah.
So I've already put my asterisk down. Who do you think I'm dropping first?
I think you try and drop Nurgle first.
You are correct.
Yes.
Okay. As you look over the list, Nurgle, the list I'm having right now. Let's say I do my class beast. We'll swap gears a little bit. You look at it on all those beasts.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
The list doesn't really care what it's pairing into.
Yeah.
It's there to exist, score, control the board, and you're like going, that's really probably is going to be his first drop. And of course, now you've guessed it. You've guessed it correctly. I was thinking you're going to drop your Fire Slayers first. So what was going to be your first pick?
I was going to drop probably Beasts of Chaos first, because it's probably the same.
You're going to do the Beasts?
Yeah.
It was one or the other.
Yeah, those were my two, yeah.
Yeah, it was one or the other. I was like, okay, cool enough. Either way, I'm prepared to deal with a whole whack load of really hard stuff.
A lot of goats right there.
Yeah, exactly right. Because I identified these as your two defenders, basically.
Yeah.
And you're right. When I look over your list right now, I didn't want to necessarily drop my sons first.
No, because I have the list with the DPS checks. You know, I can do it.
You have a few things in there that can threaten my son's player.
Yeah.
So the son's player I didn't want to lead off with.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've now picked our first, and now comes the interesting part.
Yes. We dropped the
picking of which the two teams we're going to present to the other player to pick from. And here's where tactics start becoming really, really, really interesting. Okay, so we'll quickly go through it.
Yeah.
So you put down Nurgle. Which two of my team am I going to put into it? Good question, right?
I put down Beasts of Chaos.
Oh, don't pick. Yeah, you put down.
No, my first was Beast. My defender is Beast of Chaos, right? That's what
Nurgle. Yeah, Nurgle. So I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna present you with this, and I'm gonna present you with. Looking at your other stuff. Yes, I'm going to present you with this. All right, I've picked two. I'm ready when you are.
All right, I'm ready too.
All right, wonderful. All right, so when I reveal, you will see suns and iron jaws.
Second suns and second iron jaws.
You got it. All right, to refresh your memory, the suns is your classic breaker list with an incarnate.
Yeah.
Your iron jaws is rather pick either one or two maw crushers, lots of pigs, lots of damage output.
Yeah.
There is bounty hunters in the list.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
Yeah. Most likely, yeah. All right, so what did you pick for me?
So on my side versus your against your Nurgle list.
Yeah, you got it.
I would have put my Fire Slayers.
Very good.
Second right there. Or I would have put actually my KO, sorry.
KO?
Yeah. KO, right there.
So KO and Fire Slayers. The Volkites pour out a lot of attacks.
And their regulation vets and their bounty hunters, of course, too. So they can do damage.
Yes, absolutely. You got it. So for me, I know how I direct my team 100% in this situation. I would probably grab your Fire Slayers into my beasts. Now, why would I do that? It's obviously going to be an objective-based battle plan. Let's just say it's like the middle, where it favors both our armies.
Yeah.
Because my beast list is all individual beasts, you have to distribute your attacks across all those individual guys.
Yeah.
But more importantly, where I identify the possible opportunity here is the Sloppity Bile Piper. Denying you the pile in.
Yeah.
And the way I place my stuff, and the fact that I can retreat and then charge to then tie up something else, I can lock that army potentially in a cage. And each one of the beasts counts as two models.
Yeah.
In the world of make-believe, let's say I have a Bellicor or whatever in there.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't pick these up, but you know what I mean? Like, we're just kind of spitballing.
Yeah.
I would probably grab your Fire Slayers. I just wanted your audience to kind of go through what potentially we'd be looking at.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes
sense. So that would be my thinking. I look at KO, but there is a downside. And the downside is, because I didn't pick your KO goes back into the pool.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? But I think from a captain perspective, I'm okay with that. I'm okay that that KO is back in the pool because I have some answers for them as well.
So your Nurgle goes against my Fire Slayers. That's one match decided right there.
Yes,
so
you got it. You got it. All right, so
over to me now. So
yes, sir.
I've got Iron Jaws or Sons of Behemoth going into my Beasts of Chaos, Mass Wounds, and Summoning.
You got it.
I am absolutely going to take Sons of Behemoth here because I can, I don't want Iron Jaws tabling me in 2 turns, even if I have 180 wounds. They're still going to do it.
100%. 100%.
And Sons, actually, I have the Rend, and I have the minimum sized units everywhere. So that might be a problem for them. It would be a better matchup, I think, for my Beast of Chaos player right there. So
okay,
I would pick the Sons.
So now, let's talk about the 3D chess that just happened.
Yeah.
I used the Iron Jaws to drive you to the Suns.
Yeah.
In this pairing process.
Yeah.
Because and I want you to appreciate
it's not necessarily the best match the matchup I wanted for my Beast of Chaos. It's the lesser of two evils right now.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And what did we just talk about at the beginning of this conversation?
It's the job of
I did not lead off. Yeah, I did not lead off with Suns.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why didn't I lead off with Suns?
Because you were terrified of other armies. You want certain matchups.
Correct.
Yes.
I wanted Suns to be in this matchup instead of the others.
Yeah.
So what I did is I used my attacker to herd you into my Suns, so that at least the Suns has an opportunity
absolutely.
to play. And of course, we're playing a mission that has center objectives.
Yes.
So although you could possibly DPS and kill my Suns, my Suns guy might not lose by much, and that's exactly what his job is.
Like
his job is to not
absolutely did not want the Nighthawk matchup with your Suns.
I did not.
And so you were like, oh, Beasts of Chaos, I guess it's a 50-50. I might as well, put them there and they're going to do their thing, It's like that, that's the spirit.
Right? And they just sit on objectives and score. Yeah, you might table them. But again, it might be close at the end, and I score my 9 points for my team. That's what I'm sending my guy to do.
Yeah.
His job is to score 9 points, and if he wins the game, even better. Because he could potentially win that game.
Yeah.
The Incarnate is no joke, and Breakers are also no joke in combat either. Regardless of what the Talking Heads. Well, I guess this is a Talking Head, but you know what I mean. Regardless.
All right.
So there you go. We just got into a pairing process.
Yes.
And we just went into the coolness of the mind game, right? I was figuring out what you were going to pick first. I was wrong, but then adapted. You nailed your first pick, but then it ain't over yet.
Yep.
We now go into the mind game of presenting of the two lists.
Yeah.
And I just talked about a technique of driving an opponent into poor choices. Because this is what you could have done. Let's assume for a sec that the Iron Jaws is just a terrible for everybody on your team. Is it terrible for KO? Yeah, it depends on your
probably, maybe, yeah.
On your thing. Is it bad for Nurgle? Yeah, probably bad for Nurgle. Is it bad for Fire Slayers? Probably bad for Fire Slayers, because Bounty Hunter pigs, 6 of them slamming into them. You can have all your ward saves in the world, they will rip through a unit real quick. So more often than not, maybe Iron Jaws is a bad matchup. What you could have done is your Beast of Chaos player could have actually jumped on the grenade.
Exactly, yeah.
And took him out of the pool.
Yeah.
But now you're expecting a lot from the other players.
Yes.
So that's the downside of that choice. So another thing to take into consideration is you can go, I think you think that I think this, so I'll do something else.
Yeah.
And now you're just throwing a wrench into my plan. Because I was not expecting you to pick Iron Jaw. I was expecting you to herd and pick my Suns.
It's just big brain moves all around.
Big brain moves. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And this is the most amazingly cool thing about teams. Absolutely. It's just so cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the first pick. We've eliminated guys. So Suns has been chosen.
Yeah, Suns versus Beast of Chaos, and then Nurgle versus Fire Slayers are our two first matches.
You got it. And then the Nurgle's off the menu as well, right? Yeah, because the Nurgle's off the menu.
Nurgle Suns for you, and I have Beast of Chaos and Fire Slayers. Yeah.
Beast of Chaos. Right, Beast of Chaos is off for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So each one of us has three armies left.
Yes.
And for me, that's Seraphon, Iron Jaws, and Stormcast.
Yes. And for me, it's Nighthawk, KO, and Nurgle.
You got it. All right, next pairing. So now things start getting narrowing. This is now, as the captain, you start looking at what is left. And now you really see the impact of your choices. So for instance, Iron Jaws is still in the list. Is still in the pool. My Stormcast has some long strikes, some dragons, a few screens. Maybe it's Liberator screens to kind of castle up, right? Yeah. So kind of nasty. So there's 6 long strikes in the list. There's some dragons in the list. The Seraphon are still there, cruising waiting to strike. Waiting to strike. And now, so that's me. And now looking at your side, I'm looking at horrendous amount of mortal wounds from Nighthawk, all coming and hitting me with all sorts of negatives to my armor and all sorts of crazy thing. I've got a KO, which is very swingy.
Yes.
So that's that. And then a Fire Slayer matchup. Now, again, we're still playing the mission
Nurgle.
where it has...
Nurgle matchup.
Sorry?
A Nurgle matchup, right?
We're still playing a mission where it has three or so objectives in the center.
Yeah.
So Fire Slayers are still a very, very big threat.
But I don't have Fire Slayers at this point.
You don't. Oh yeah. So you still have Beast of Chaos.
I have remaining Nighthaunt, I have KO, and I have Nurgle.
Sorry. I thought that's right.
But that's okay. That's okay.
I got confused. It was my bad. I wrote it down. So anyway, Magikin are still in the mix, and of course, again, we still have those 3 objectives in the center. So Magikin is still very good at doing that as well. All right. So now we're in the situation. You identified my defenders.
Yes.
So what did you notice right off the bat as the captain?
You have 2 very elite armies right off the bat, right there, that's for sure. And you have an all-rounder in Seraphon remaining.
Exactly.
So
what do you think is going to be my drop?
You just might drop Seraphon and be like, Seraphon's going to do well against everything, so I don't really care, and I want to... is that it? Or is it going to be the other way around? You're gonna drop something that you want to choose with. So you're probably gonna drop maybe Iron Jaws. Oh, it's gonna all messing my head. You might drop Iron Jaws and be like, okay, I want to choose one of these 3 matchups for my Iron Jaws. And Seraphon, you don't care. I'm gonna choose it for you, and something like that. I'm gonna go with that. It's good.
You're gonna go with Iron Jaws?
I think you're gonna pick Iron Jaws. Yeah, you're gonna drop Iron Jaws, I think.
Excellent choice.
Okay, I was getting...
Excellent choice.
It's too much 3D braining for me. It's too much 3D braining.
Right? So what you're guessing is I'm picking Iron Jaws.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at your other pairings.
Yeah.
right?
And you want to ensure...
And there's only really one of the pairings that I'm really concerned about.
Yeah.
And then the others...
You don't
not
care
so
as much. Yeah. So you absolutely want to pair Iron Jaws in
You're going to
something
feed me
good.
something. You're going to feed me something. You're going to give me something I can eat.
I have to. Yeah, that's his job. Absolutely.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
Because I hear the dinner bell, and because you didn't take it off, you didn't take it off of the out of choices.
Yeah.
I'm driving this now.
Yes.
I am now driving this. I've now taken initiative, in essence, right?
Yes.
Because now you're going to give me something that I'm going to want. I'm going to guess that you're probably going to drop Magikin.
I was going to drop Nighthaunt, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, great choice. Great choice. I've been wrong every time. That's okay. I'm right where it counts.
So we got third drop is going to be Iron Jaws for you, and
yes, sir.
Third drop would be Nighthaunt from me. Okay.
You got it. All right. So obviously,
yeah.
The other two
are
the lists that you're going to be picking from.
Yeah. So
right? So Nighthaunt's going to be looking at my Stormcast and my Seraphon.
Yes. And then
so what does Nighthaunt want to look at? So I'll give you again more details. Stormcast has long strikes. The dragons are probably bounty hunters. Seraphon, Bastillodon.
Yes.
If we're doing Thunder Losers, I guess, you could skew a little bit harder, maybe 2 Bastillodons. You can do maybe a Stegodon with a chief, yada yada, broken this, broken that thing, or maybe it's Salamanders.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, absolutely. The tricky part
could
here,
be a whole horde of Salamanders.
Tricky part here is that what I'm gonna pick the other thing is going to end up against what's left on my side. So there's like
correct
I'm looking like if I pick Stormcast here for my Night Hunt, the Seraphon is gonna either play KO or Nurgle, or do I throw my Night Hunt into the Seraphon to make sure that the KO and Nurgle don't end up against Seraphon? There's another layer here that we got to talk about.
Very good. That's exactly right.
Yes,
that is exactly right.
Yes.
And of course, my Iron Jaws is going to look at KO and Magikid.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my Stormcast and my Seraphon.
Yeah.
And I'm going to grab your Magikid.
Yeah. You don't want Nurgle versus the other two, right?
No.
Yeah.
And you made it really much easier for me because Night Hunt, it was your defender drop.
Yeah.
There you go. Because it was your defender drop, I'm like, sweet. I picked the other one. I auto pair on my other one. Everything's looking fantastic. Let's play this game. Let's go.
Absolutely. And then I would probably think my Night Hunt are going to go into the Stormcast because I don't want to deal with that much mortal wounds from Seraphon for these guys. So.
Sure. Right? And you can make that Stormcast army whatever you want to make it look a bit like whatever the matchup is.
Yeah.
I said dragons, probably and bounty hunters. So it's not like that's a bad matchup for me. Like as a captain, I look at that Stormcast list against Night Hunt, like that game ain't over. Not at all.
Yeah.
The mortals that can pour out of long strikes, 6 long strikes, is great. Dragons can pour out mortals with fire breath. Great.
Absolutely.
The Ren doesn't matter, obviously, but the additional damage from the dragons being bounty hunters into ghosts, you'll block 50% of it, but every one that goes through will probably knock out 2 or 3 ghosts, of course, unless you have a Cruciator, of course. And maybe that's what you do. You take Cruciator, so now it's a worse matchup, but at least I have some mortals that could back me up. So that game isn't over. That game is not over. And then my Seraphon will go into your KO.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Could go either way. You know, big alpha strike.
Nah, man, it's gonna go one way. The skinks are gonna zone out your boats. You'll fire like little 12-inch shots at the skinks, and then you're gonna watch my dinosaurs smack your boats out of the sky.
Big dinosaurs. So there you have it. That's a pairing process done. You know, with and that's just. We don't have the list. We don't have real lists written before us. So there's so much to take in consideration when you do those.
Yeah.
And and you don't have that much time. You have I think you have 15 minutes pairing process
15 minutes
for your team. In my tournament, I've put 30 because I wanted to make sure everybody, they weren't that familiar with the pairing process. But then you can start the game as soon as you're finished. So that's why the pre-tournament work is so important, because you have to think on the spot. You have very little time to do these pairings, and we've just done this, you and me, without any written list before us, and it took us about 30 minutes right there just to do this. So
we were discussing and explaining.
Yes, of course, but still, it takes a lot of time, and in the heat of the moment, you want to make those choices, and you want to have if you've done the work before, it's going to help you immensely.
Yes. Absolutely, you're absolutely bang on correct. And then we're tossing in the extra layer of picking tables.
Yes, absolutely. So that comes after.
Right?
Yes.
So your Fire Slayers in that first round got to pick the table they want to go on.
Yeah.
And unless you were not wanting to give because one of the things is you can pick your tables to deny your opponent.
Yeah.
Or to buff you.
Yeah. A mystical terrain with chanting bonuses for Fire Slayers could be nice. So maybe that's the table they pick right there.
Here's the secret. Fire Slayers are good on all the tables. Except Arcane, sorry. Pardon me. Except Arcane. Because although they're not good on Arcane, they're still good. Because if you can deny the Arcane table to another strong Wizard army, because they don't need buffs.
No.
Right? And if the army that they get to pair it into are not heavy wizards, you could go, we're going to go on the Arcane table. It doesn't benefit you. You're right. But it won't benefit the rest of your team either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there could be a Tzeentch player on the team. There could be, of course, a Seraphon player on the other side, right? Some more more magic dominating type lists.
Yes.
And the Fire Slayers can just, you know what, I'm going to just take the Arcane right off the board. Or they can double down and go for a Damned, where they're just taking D3 Mortals for +1 to hit.
Yeah, could be a nice bonus for them, absolutely. So there's just so much to consider at that point. So
yes,
we encourage people to have, you know, once you get your hands on the players pack and everything in the pairing process, practice this pairing process. Just do in-house pairings, like take some lists and try to figure out what would work best on your own, and it's going to help you immensely when comes the time of the real pairings.
And that's why you need that those lists posted a month ahead of time.
Yeah, the sooner the better, absolutely.
Yeah. You got team tournaments, like team events, or teams, sorry, let's reverse time and space here. World teams.
Yeah. That
literally practice against every other team's mix with on TTS in real life, and they'll practice all the permutations.
Yeah.
Like for instance, the 40K team is a team of 8, but 8 are active roster, but they actually have 16 members to the team. There's an 8-man inactive, and those are to fill spots of guys who can all of a sudden can't make it for whatever reason. And now they fill in, but they're also there to train with the active roster. And a lot of times that inactive roster is actually playing with the other world teams.
Yes.
Lists, exactly right. And they're now being team UK or team Poland or team whatever. And all the guys are now just working together to try and refine the team and work together and try to get into the mindset of what the other teams could possibly do. It is such a cool thing. You see how cool it is when you start getting. Remember when we were at our first conversation, you were saying we were going to do a team event at 3, and I said, you know, 3 doesn't quite capture it. Do you get it now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful thing to witness. Just how everything goes together, and it's really great. It's going to bring the best in people for Warhammer, and it's going to be amazing events with team banter is going to be awesome. You know, it's just going to be, going to be so much fun. It's just going to be so much fun.
Yeah, and if you're just whipping in there as a casual team, then you know none of this really matters. No. Just go and just have a blast. Absolutely. And try and see. The competition there is to try and see who gets the most wins on a team. Yeah, and then you just buy that guy beers.
Absolutely, buy that guy beers. He deserves it.
or person. Doesn't have to be a guy. It could be a girl too. Please, that'd be amazing. Yeah. An all-girl team, man. I would love to see that. An all-girl team, just smash face. That would be freaking amazing.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
right,
it would.
So I think we've gone pretty much over everything. Hopefully, this inspired you guys to go and attend those team tournaments. So we have the TGX team tournament coming up in November 5th and 6th, and we have the Gentleman's Team tournament coming up on the 26th of November. It's actually a one-day event this year, but it's starting up. We're aiming for a two-day next year, of course. So
nice. You know, well, hopefully next time I'll be able to apply and get in there. I didn't realize the tickets already went for sale.
Oh, it went for sale fast. It just took everybody by surprise. But we'll go bigger next year if it's a success for sure. And yeah, like you were mentioning, there's still spots available for the TGX tournament. So if teams want to enter, now's the time. Registration is still taking place. So all the details are on the event Facebook, which is going to be linked down below. And we've got also the players pack. If you have more questions, you can always contact Lionel directly, I guess, and ask those questions.
Or Fabio, he's my partner. Although I do a lot of the talking for obvious reasons because I got a large mouth. But it's Fabio's the other heart and soul. He's the guy who keeps the whole thing going. He works in the background, not as loud or obnoxious as I am, but definitely the design. And he answers a lot of the questions as well when you answer. So it's often not me, actually. It's Fabio working in the background, pulling his his puppet strings, and I'm just merely his marionette.
Well, shout out to Fabio then, doing the Legends work.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Great. All right. Exactly. Well, that does it for us, guys. Lionel, thank you so much for coming on here. It's been a pleasure. And
it's been an absolute blast.
Yeah, hopefully.
So
yeah.
Is Gentleman 14? Is that like? I know you're the gentleman, obviously.
Yeah.
But what's the 14 for?
I'm not allowed to.
What's
say
14?
I'm not allowed to say it, Lionel. Not even for you. It's a secret. Okay. I can't do it.
It's all right.
I can't do it.
Okay, fair enough.
You'll have to beat me in the tournament match, and then I'll tell you. How's that sound?
Done. So next time, if we ever play again, then.
All right, so stay tuned for Lionel trying to beat me in a tournament match. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.